Oh, just a second.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the FPL Banger Show, Game Week 34. My name is Siva. I'm joined once again by Sam. And Sam, we got to start off with something that was a really huge letdown. Weeks and weeks, months and months of anticipation, so much excitement. We thought it would change the world. We thought it would be, defining for generations to come. But the ending of WrestleMania, Sam, with John Cena winning the title is such a letdown, right?
Yeah. I'll pretend that I watched and I even knew that was happening.
It's on Netflix, mate. How is this? How is it not like all up in your feed? Travis Scott interrupting at the last second to, and
Did that really happen? Oh,
you see, okay, so let me tell you what happened. Okay, so Travis Scott, like halfway through a very boring match, starts slow walking. Like, I mean, okay, Sam, you're like 99% of people who watched wrestling 20 years ago and no longer watches it. But when you used to watch wrestling, right, you would have a lot of run-ins and interruptions. People would, interfere in matches. Travis Scott has never seen wrestling clearly because he walks in and he's slowly walking. He's still walking. His music is playing. He slowly gets in, and then he does like one punch, and then John Cena wins. And that I think is a very apt sort of, you'll wonder why we're talking about wrestling, right? Especially if you came here for FPL content. This is the correct podcast because it's a very apt analogy for this entire shit show of a double game week, right? It took forever and it did not go at all like we planned, right? Like until John Philip Mateta got off the bench with like 10 minutes left of this double game week, I was thinking this is quite possibly the worst week I've had in like years, until he scored one of the best goals I've seen in a while. But yeah, such a letdown, right?
yeah. Letdown's an understatement, I think. I have a red arrow on a week where I use my triple captain. It's bad. Very bad. Very bad indeed.
I mean,
And
obviously,
Burn giving me a -2 in a
well,
which did
Sam,
not help.
your thought process is right, right? You said I'm going to triple captain someone different. You found a Belgian midfielder who's really good, for plays for one of the top teams in the country. It's just that you went for the wrong Belgian midfielder, Sam. You were so close.
I know. Should have went for Trossard. And for real, I was kind of tempted because I felt, a lot of rotation. And he has been getting a lot of minutes recently. I just did not pull the trigger on another Arsenal mid, you know.
To be fair, I didn't either. I told you that Mikel Merino would start in midfield, right? And I was correct. He started the first game midfield, didn't show up for the second game. What is really stupid of me was I didn't take that theory to its full conclusion, which is if Marino's starting in midfield, obviously Trossard starts up front. So why am I not just getting the guy who starts up front for the soon-to-be Champions League winners? My mistake.
Don't
I
jinx
got
it, Siva.
there'll be a lot of jinxing me, but I got Jakub Kiwior for his goal threat. Always go with the cheap option.
Yeah, it's great. Great move that if you ignore that there's a triple captain by De Bruyne, he returned 15 points. So it looks good when you look at it.
At one point, up to I don't know if you knew this, Sam. This is probably going to upset you more, but before City scored the winner against Villa, KDB was on for 2 bonus points in his usual sort of KDB shithousing bonus points when he does nothing kind of fashion.
I mean, he has like 0.5 XA, which is really high in a single match,
Yeah.
So deserved it. Create a lot of chances.
And we almost got 170 minutes out of KDB across a double game week.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's crazy because I think all the big players played really well. Like Salah finished with like I don't know how many chances he got. He hit the post twice, I think. Missed 4 big chances. Finished with a XG of 1.09, which is really, really high, but blanked. Saka in his first game was really doing really well as well. Blanked. KDB played pretty well. Okay, maybe not the first game. First game was kind of a drag. But deserved more points for sure. In an alternate universe, all our picks worked out, and we would have like 100 plus points this week.
Yes, but unfortunately, in this universe, it wasn't meant to be. But we go again, right? And game week 34, Sam, we're both on free hit. And sort of spoiler alert, this is going to be a very much a free hit episode. If you are coming into this week with, only one or two players and you don't have free hit, you don't have wild card, there are other hobbies, chess, you know, climb mountains, take a walk, touch grass, that kind of thing. Yeah, but for those of you who have a chip to deal with this game week, or you've got enough players, let's crack on, Sam. Um, and let's start off. I mean, you want to start at the front or the back? Because we kind of need to do this team by team, but also position by position.
Let's do team by team. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
We speak on the
Right.
teams, what players we want from those teams, and then we can work it out from there.
Okay. More organization than we normally have, but luckily I came prepared, Sam. So here's a graphic from Rob TFPL. The best graphics guy on Twitter for my money, I would say. These are the match odds for this week, and it's a useful sort of guide because free hit week, right? You want to look at who the bookies think are most likely to win. No real surprises here, although one small surprise: Liverpool are highest for expected goals. Uh, Even ahead of Newcastle against Ipswich, ahead of Fulham at Southampton, and ahead of Wolves against Leicester. So I guess let's start off with Liverpool, Sam. Who are
Okay.
your Liverpool players?
Obviously, Salah should be any um, any FPL player with a right mind, with a sound mind, would pick Salah into their team. Which is why he's not in my team, Siva. I don't think my mind is sound, but I mean, it's just 1 week. I'm gonna take the risk. It is perhaps a very foolish decision, but we're in the tail end of the season, and my season has not been going well. So I'm gonna go for Hail Mary moves from now on. Biggest differential you can ask for is to go without Salah, I think.
Well, one assist in the last 4 game weeks. I mean, you could do worse. It seems like he's maybe he's tailing off. I don't know. Although I must say the underlying stats look still quite decent, right? 1.09 xG last week against Leicester, but blanked. The assist, okay, maybe not so much against West Ham, but then yeah, his XGI is still there. It's not non-existent. And the more important thing is his minutes are still really consistent. He's still playing somewhere between 80 to 90 minutes each week. So fair enough, Sam. You're going against the grain, which is understandable because if you're chasing at this stage, I really can sympathize because we got 5 weeks left. You kind of need to take some big swings, and by definition, you can't just pick the template team and expect to climb at this stage. Who would be the Liverpool alternative? Because that's why I'm struggling, right? Liverpool still have way too many midfielders, and I started off with a draft where I had like double Liverpool attack, and then I've sort of moved away from that.
I think honestly, only Luis Diaz. I think he's probably the only nailed other attacker, midfield and forwards from Liverpool. Like Cody Gakpo has not been getting consistent minutes. Sobo as well has had periods where he has been benched and not really consistent with the returns either. Very patchy. Perhaps on a 1 week punt you could, Dominic Soboslai. Other than that, I don't know. Could go McAllister, who is nailed, but again, 4 goals, 5 assists, not a big point scorer, and that's about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, Soboslai's recent points look awful, right? No returns since game week 27. Minutes also have been a bit sketchy.
Yeah, but I would say he has a higher ceiling than McAllister.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like when
I
he
won't dispute
scores,
that.
it's double digits, but it's literally feast or famine. Almost all of his returns are either double digits or blanks.
What's your read on Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota? Because I did, so I sort of tried to stay away from content this week. When I made my first draft, Diaz was definitely in it. But having looked at his minutes, and I wonder if I'm overthinking this, he has played back to back 90s, which is nice. Seems to be playing the striker role, which is also nice. But his XG involvement against Leicester was next to non existent. It was less than all the other attackers, including Jota, who played 30 minutes. I don't know if that makes him a good pick or not, but I guess minutes on the field is good enough.
Yeah, I feel so. Especially on a 1 week punt. You do want someone who will start. I'm not convinced by Jota's minutes, so not in the picture for me.
One nice thing about Luis Diaz is, I mean, to the extent that you care about this, the last time they played Spurs, he got 13 points.
There you have it, locked in the team.
Shall we address?
Let's talk trend. Were you about to go there? Yeah.
I was about to go to trend. Yeah. I'm look, I'm gonna start off by being a little boring here. I'm really not sure I want. I mean, it would be great if we knew that Trent will start, but we're at Thursday. I think we can sort of expect what Arne Slot will say, which is he's ready to play, he's fit, but he's not going to tell you whether he starts or not. So you have to make an educated decision on that. Personal feeling is, why rush Trent? Connor Bradley could start and then Trent could come on. They could do that again. It's not as if Connor Bradley's bad. Maybe just he doesn't offer enough in attack compared to Trent. But Liverpool don't even need to win this game, right? A point will suffice. On the other hand, I guess Trent is going, right? He's gone. And so why does Arne Slot care if Real Madrid's right back is going to be injured or not? So just play Trent anyway.
True. I think the narrative can go both ways, right? You could also go like, he's gonna leave soon, but he's been a Liverpool boy. If he helps them win this game, then they could just clinch it this game, because the next two games are pretty tough, right? And therefore, opportunity to clinch it, they might just go, okay, let's just play our best team. Let's just play everyone. Trent looks kind of fit. Let's just put him in. And then there's the other narrative, like you said, he's about to leave. Why play him? Let's keep playing Bradley. He's been doing okay as a prelude to next season. So I think it goes both ways, and it's really hard to tell. And we probably will not get a definitive answer. So it's gotta take the risk, I guess, whichever way you go.
The one thing I will say is ultimately Trent's a defender, right? And the defenders he's competing with are by and large 6-point merchants, in my opinion. And so you're taking a risk with Trent, but chances are you are risking a loss of 6 points, say if you don't go for Virgil or you don't go for any Konate, for example.
Yeah.
So if you compare him amongst the other defenders, right? Who are these world-class defenders you're going for? You're not going to touch Fabian Schär because he's also an injury doubt. Ryan Aït-Nouri, we love him, but he's not exactly, you're lucky if you get double digits from him. He's generally a 2-point man most weeks. Anthony Robinson, it's been a while since he did something special.
So we're going defenders now.
I mean, I'm just comparing because
yeah.
My initial thought was Trent is too risky. But as I talk to you, Sam, and as I sort of think about it, the worst case is, yes, Trent, you get a 1-pointer, but it's not like as if he's competing with double-digit merchants, right? As opposed to, say, a midfielder where there are a lot of potential for massive hauls. The defenders here all just look like, we'll be happy if we get 6 points.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that worst case scenario, Trent comes on 1 point. The other people get clean sheet 5.6 points, So, but Trent has a way higher ceiling than all of them. So best case scenario is a lot higher. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you articulated much better than I was doing in my waffling. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Higher ceiling. It's a much higher ceiling, but the floor is roughly about the same.
Exactly. Yeah. So on that basis, let's again. I don't want to tell you. We'll wait to see what the press conference. We already know what Arne Slot's going to say. He's going to dodge all the questions about him leaving, and he's going to say that he's working his way back into the team. So you just sort of have to take a risk. One thing I will say is that Liverpool have nothing else to play for. So coming back to narrative and motivation, I would imagine Arne Slot wants to go out with a positive end to this season because there's probably some sort of something sticking. Like Liverpool kind of blew a lot of things. Like they blew the Champions League, they blew the domestic trophies, um, and so the league title almost is a bit anticlimactic. So I think they want to win this game, and also Spurs are shit. I mean,
Yeah. But not only that, I think with the relegations confirmed and everything, and they're really stuck in what are they, 16th? There's almost no reason for them to play any better. I'm sure the Spurs players just kind of want to get the season over with.
they are 16th, and they have lost 18 games this season.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
I think
insane.
the best teams to target are actually the teams in that little bracket. That's in my personal opinion. Like the relegation teams, yeah, okay. But at the same time, they still have some motivation. Like players might want to play well to earn a move, stay in the Premier League next season, and things like that. But teams who are, 17, 16, 17, in that region, they really got nothing to play for. Too high to get relegated, too low to do anything else, basically.
Yeah, I mean they're stuck in purgatory, right? These teams,
Yeah.
United, Spurs, West Ham. Yeah, I think I like it. So okay, so I mean target Spurs for sure. Trent, I guess we're both gonna step in and go for Trent. You're not sold on getting Virgil as a sort of safe option.
No, I think, like you said, it will be either Trent or Conor Bradley for me, just because of the attacking potential, somewhat.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't predict the left back situation. It seems very fluid.
Yeah, no one predicts it, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So Luis Diaz, I mean, Sam, let's talk about normal people because you've already explained that you don't want to go at Salah for, I would say, valid reasons. Do you think the average FPL player should have both Salah and Diaz?
Yes, I think so. He still, could have had a mega haul last week. And there were some people who kept the faith and captained him even despite all the double game weeks going around. And they were almost justified, by numbers, definitely justified. If we go by XG, they were just unlucky. I think the motivation is there this week at least. Once they clinch their title, then I'm a bit, wary of the Liverpool players because there's
But they
really
only need a
nothing else
point,
to do.
mate. So I mean, if that's your theory, then it's a bit more risky.
I don't think so. I think they will look at it as, not that, oh, we just need a point for this game. It's more like we can clinch the title in this game week. So let's just go all out. Spurs bad morale, Liverpool high morale. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm kind of with you, but we started off in Liverpool. I think we kind of need to assess the next team which has all the midfielders. Because if we're discussing, and also defenders, because if we're discussing Diaz and Trent, I think you've got to ask yourself, do they are they better options than Newcastle midfielders and defenders? Because you've
Mm.
got Barnes been on fire, Murphy been on fire. Um, okay, Fabian Shaw would be nice, but even without him, Tino Livramento has been doing very honest work.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
yeah,
Newcastle will probably be the best team to have this game week. The problem is we only can pick three, right? So like you mentioned, you got Barnes who you won, got Murphy who's been doing well. Isak is still maybe the best forward in the game. in the league. Then you got the defenders, Livramento. Trippier was in one of my earlier drafts as well, attacking potential again. And Pope also maybe one of the best keepers you can pick this week. So many options, but only 3 slots. I decided to go for triple attack and forego one of the defenders. It's a tough decision, partly because I think there's less options in defense compared to attack. But with the way they've been attacking, kind of want Barnes and Murphy.
Interesting. And you are content with the fact that neither Barnes or Murphy, I mean, one of them is definitely coming off for Gordon. It's just a question of when that sub happens. It's probably going to happen on 60 minutes.
Yeah, it's fine. I think they're playing a team who's already relegated. The yeah, morale will be down, their morale will be high. And I think so I'm going to target teams that are still have something very much to play for, right? So I'm aiming at Forest, Newcastle, and Chelsea to a lesser extent, maybe. Mostly because there just doesn't seem to have any good players. And we get to Chelsea later. But those are the teams I want to target. Because I think, they have the motivation to really try and end strong, move up. And it's still really tight for the Champions League spaces.
Okay. So I think I'm mostly with you. Like I'm not really motivated by picking a defender from Newcastle. Although I mean I own Livramento in my actual team, so I can already see how this is going to go wrong when I free hit him out. But I'm also like you. I'm quite tempted to go triple attack because we all have Isaac. Everybody's going to have probably Jacob Murphy, and it's really tempting to get Harvey Barnes. More so because I think Jacob Murphy is the one who's going to get subbed early. But that
Yeah.
doesn't really stop him. Like he knows he has only 60 minutes to get his goals in, so he's just gonna get all his shit in, and so therefore I want Harvey Barnes.
And if
And
you ask me, if I were to pick top 3 to have for one game week only, I would go Barnes and Murphy over Isak. Maybe it's the whole Salah thing, like I want to go differential and I think everyone has Isak. So I might forego Isak and just go with Barnes and Murphy and a defender maybe. Trippier, who is still very lowly owned. I think that's a good combo of 3 players who don't really have high ownership, who have still high ceiling.
yeah, I won't dismiss that. I mean, again, if your ultimate aim is to try and chase and take as many gambles as you want on a 1 week basis, fair enough. Then you go against Isaac because Isaac, I think, will be the popular captain. So he's going to be very heavily owned. So if your plan is to gamble, and we're 2 weeks removed from Isaac completely failing as not completely failing, but largely underperforming as triple captain. So fair enough. I mean, you want to go that risk. I will have Isaac because I feel like he's probably due a haul, and all these accidents where he hasn't been the big guy hauling, he's due a correction.
Okay.
One thing I will say, right, about not having a Newcastle defender, Ipswich have scored in 8 of their last 10 games. That's compared to Leicester, who scored once in their last 10 games. So, I mean, in one game of their last 10, Leicester have scored. So maybe that gives you a bit more justification to avoid, or at least more reason to pick Newcastle attack instead of Newcastle defense. Liam Delap probably good for a goal most weeks.
Yeah. Fair. I think that's a fair point. They don't roll over. Although they were still, fighting for their lives at that point. And now that they are confirmed relegated, well, can see how it goes. Although I think the lab still has motivation because it's probably chasing a transfer to stay, and lots of teams are interested. So still motivation for him to do his best. Won't be on the beach just yet.
Well, I hear that Man United are leading the race. So, I mean, if I were Liam Delap, I would down tools and start playing badly.
It seems that Cunha is leading the race now for United.
So that, I think, is a nice segue into Wolves, because I actually am having some difficulty trying to pick a Wolves player. And I can let's talk the obvious point, right? Uh, Cunha and Strand Larson don't seem to have been hauling together. Like it seems Cunha has been hauled, and then when he was out, Strand Larson started scoring, and then Cunha has come back. Of course, the sample size is tiny, but it seems like Strand Larson isn't as effective with Cunha in the team. That's one problem I have with the Wolves attack. The second issue is there's Bellegarde, who was out the previous week. Now, he may or may not be back for this week. And if he's back, does that affect Cunha's starting role? As we said, right? Cunha is leaving. And
Yeah.
unlike Trent, Cunha is leaving for a lot of money. So if Wolves have another option, bearing in mind as well that safety is now guaranteed, they are so far ahead of Ipswich. Mathematically, it will be guaranteed this week. Do you not, again, motivation? Isn't Vitor Pereira probably tempted? Or maybe even gets an instruction from above. You don't need to play Cunha this week. We've got 60 million coming in.
Don't jeopardize his transfer. That's one. Two, Cunha himself, have been very vocal about leaving. So again, does not want to jeopardize his transfer either. And they've been doing decent without him. Better than decent, actually. I think in that time Cunha was out, they won like 5. They're on a 5-game win streak now. Which is why I don't have Cunha. I have Strand Larson instead as my Wolves attacker. So I know earlier on that I said that I'll be targeting those teams that are still fighting for Champions League places. But I think you can't ignore a team playing against Leicester. It's too good a fixture to ignore at home as well, and a team that is in great form like Wolves.
Yeah. Actually, really good form. 5 wins in a row. Actually, no. I think, yeah, 5. Let me just have a look at it. Yeah, 5 wins in a row, unbeaten in the last 6. And I mean, to be fair, these are all bad teams. They've beaten Southampton, West Ham, Ipswich, Spurs, and United. So they're beating guys around them, which is great because, I mean, that's exactly what Leicester will be. Defense for Wolves, because I think we don't know enough about Bellegarde's status to say that he's a pick this week. So no other midfielders. I mean, I'm not tempted by any of their midfielders.
Yeah,
Ryan
minutes are
Aitnur,
sure, I think mostly. Yeah, I think in defense, Aitnuri is probably the only. I mean, he has the highest ceiling, that's for sure. So, Aitnuri has to be there. Is there a case to double? I think possibly.
it's
Like
a
you said,
valid
Leicester
question.
doesn't score, and they're playing at home. But
Again,
who?
annoyingly,
Semedo?
well, so press conference we'll have to see in terms of goalkeepers because Sa did pick up an injury and therefore didn't play United. The backup Daniel Bentley played and did pretty well, I must say. Not sure if that happens again. So assuming we don't get an update on that, Semedo an option or
Yeah.
Agbadu? I mean,
Who? Oh. Just second here, I did
Emmanuel.
not know they had a starter, a 4.0 starter.
Oh, Sam, you're such a casual of it.
Totti has been starting a lot. So 4.3. I'm sure you can spare a 0.3 this week, Siva.
I definitely could. Double Wolves defense is insane. I mean, double Wolves attack is one thing, but double Wolves defense. Oh, this could go so wrong. But Leicester still look very anemic in attack, apart from that Brighton game. By again another week, they did absolutely nothing against Liverpool. Of course, best team in the country, but they haven't done anything for so long. And we're talking about motivation. Well, what motivation do Leicester have? The only guy who did give a shit is leaving, Jamie Vardy.
Oh, Vardy might have like motivation. Like I'm gonna score before I leave.
I mean, if it was that easy, he'd have probably scored a few more goals this season.
That's true. That's true. So yeah, I mean, I think Wolves have barely any motivation either. But the fixture is just too good to ignore. So if you're too scared to do double Wolves, then at the very least, one Wolves defense, one in attack. I think that covers the good fixture.
And if we're talking about form, right? Wolves, since the turn of the year, have been amazing. Vito Pereira, when he arrived, they were 4 points from safety. Now they are so far out; it's not even up for discussion. I mean, you compare it to some, other Portuguese managers in this league and how they've done since they arrived mid-season. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
should we? I mean, I was going to say we should segue into Man United, but I don't think there's anybody
Let's
you're interested
segue
in.
into that match instead.
Yeah.
Because I think Bournemouth assets are kind of appealing.
Do
They are
you?
also not really playing for anything, but United are playing kids. He's already said, and it happened the last game. They're throwing kids there to preserve their players. So I'm pretty sure they can beat some kids even without motivation.
I love that Ruben Amorim. My last comment about Man United today, but Ruben Amorim coming out after his team heroically beat 10 men Lyon, the fourth best team in France. Okay, they took them 120 minutes to overcome Alexandre Lacazette, who's got to be at least 40 years old. Okay, and all that
Yeah,
emotion, and then Amram is saying, "Now we're going to focus on the Europa. We're going to start playing the kids in the league, like as if this team hasn't been rubbish for 6 months anyway." But it's a good excuse. That being said, Sam, you say they're going to play the kids, but United don't play until Thursday, right? And the last fixture was the previous weekend. Can you really rest all your best? And I use this term very loosely. Can you really be resting all of your best players for 10 plus days? I would imagine he probably starts a fairly strong team, as good as it gets anyway, against Wolves,
yeah.
against
I think
Bournemouth.
I think he starts a decent team, right? But I still think Bournemouth has the upper hand in this. And there are some players who I think players who are looking for a transfer is a very underrated step, which a lot of people don't talk about. Looking for a transfer versus have a transfer arranged. I think when their transfer is arranged, they play more cautiously. Like you don't want to get injured before your big transfer comes and things like that. And the club as well might want to wrap them in cotton wool as to not jeopardize a big money move. But if you're looking for transfer, then that's when you really push out, right? I think Milos Kerkez kind of fits that bill. I have him in my free hit draft.
Some might say he's hungry to make an impression
Yeah,
because
exactly.
he's Hungarian.
Yes, I got that. And his
Um,
first name is Milo, so
that joke's only gonna work in a very small context. Um, Milo's a drink in Asia and some parts
it's
of
from
Europe.
Asia, yeah. Australia to Europe. It's a big drink, Siva.
Okay, let's not chill for Milo. Are you not concerned though about Bournemouth's general form? Because it feels
I am.
like there's been a lot of hype about Bournemouth, but couldn't score against 10-man Palace. Okay, 1-0 against Bournemouth, scored in the first minute and then didn't score again. Didn't beat West Ham, lost at home to Ipswich, lost at home to Brentford. Didn't beat Spurs, couldn't beat Brighton, couldn't beat Wolves. I mean, this is a run of some really bad results.
It is. Which is why I've only one Bournemouth player, which is Kerkez, and he'll probably be on the bench.
Wait, we wasted 10 minutes talking about Bournemouth for you to tell me that your pick is on the bench.
That's the problem with the free hit, right? Like, I wish I could play every single one of these players because when you have a free hit like this, you tend to pick good players who are playing good teams in every single position, but someone has got to be on the bench.
Okay, so no Justin Clivert for you.
No, no Clivert, no Evil Nielsen. I'm very tempted by Evil Nielsen, by the way, because United's defense is bad. But no,
So why not? Because I mean, Justin Clivert, okay, yeah, last week wasn't great, but he's just come back from injury. Surely against United, you would expect him to do something.
mostly because I got no space in my squad, I think.
Okay. interested to see who these 5 better midfielders you have ahead of Justin Kluivert, because I'm finding it difficult to exclude him. It seems like one of those picks that I'm going to look back and wonder, how did I not pick guy
I
on
mean,
pens, guy who's
if
been
you go
generally very good this season.
Salah,
Fair.
Diaz.
I think that's pretty debatable, mate. I mean,
Okay,
looking at
Diaz
Diaz's form in
debatable.
general, very debatable.
Barnes, Murphy.
Debatable. Let's be real, right?
Really?
Barnes may come off on 55 minutes and you would not be surprised. I think that's pretty debatable.
Oh. In my mind, Justin Kluivert is firmly below these players, mostly because they have more to play for. Bournemouth, not really.
I think Bournemouth still have a very outside chance, but they do have a chance of European football. And if you are Justin Kluivert, as your previous point, Sam, Justin Kluivert's probably playing himself into a move to a better team at this point. He's had quite a solid season, still really young. Yeah, they're only okay. I mean, they're way behind Villa, but still, there's motivation. Everybody loves beating United. That's motivation in of itself. Okay, yeah.
Okay, fair.
So I think I'll be real here. I generally have a difficult time. I mean, I don't want to put Justin Kluivert because it's not sexy. You look at those 3 letters MUN, and it doesn't feel as sexy as IPS, right? You have all your players playing against Ipswich. I get that, but objectively, nailed on penalties versus Barnes versus Murphy versus who else are we going to talk about? Alex Iwobi. Uh,
Yeah. I would like to get some Forest players in. So I have Wood in my team. I want a midfielder, but Ilanga has not been playing more than 45 minutes in the past 3 games. Hassan Odoi as well, only played 30 in the last. So who are you going to get? There's only Gibbs White, who again has not returned for the past 5 wins. But I think that's kind of for us as a whole has not been really clicking for the past 5 game weeks.
hasn't scored more than 5 points, Morgan Gibbs White, since game week 24. I mean, that's a stat would make me run for the hills, mate.
Yeah, I think Ilanga is one I'm really interested in, but I don't know why actually. Why has he only played less than 45 minutes the past 3 game weeks?
Given up trying to understand Nuno, but he's always been like this with Elanga. Like he'll play him in some games, and then in some other games he just goes full sort of terror ball and just plays all the defensive guys. Very hard to read. And
It's a shame though, because I think when he plays, he probably has the most goal threat of all the midfielders.
yeah, obviously game week 29 was very big for Elanga. So that sort of brings me back. Justin Kluivert, Sam. I'm still not entirely sure why we're not picking him, apart from the fact that Bournemouth didn't do anything last week. I just feel like we're allowing a lot of recency bias on this.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, I think. You can go, Clever. I think I do genuinely think picking Bournemouth attackers will be a good idea this week because of how bad United is. That's how much faith I have in my own team.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast this week. I think it was maybe in Totally Football, talking about how United have become solid. And I was thinking they just conceded 4 goals like 3 days ago. But because everybody just thinks about the last fixture, right? Because they dominated, well, play or possession against Wolves. But that is Wolves,
Yeah.
right? Bournemouth's a whole different kettle of fish. Uh, Bournemouth will
I
look
mean,
to take the game.
we managed to hold Wolves to a 0-0 draw all the way until the 77th minute. If that doesn't scream defensive solidity, I don't know what does.
Uh,
And we did it
yeah.
with Lindelof and Tyler Fredrickson making his debut. So
Yeah. So I mean, Justin Kluivert against a bunch of regions, Sam. I mean, yeah. Especially if you can't find space for Evan Nelson, which I am struggling to. We'll come to the other forwards we're looking at. So that's Bournemouth. Let's talk, I guess, sort of in tandem with discussing Evan Nelson as a pick. Let's talk Forest. Now, Forest play Brentford. This is a fixture that could have fallen to a different week, but they've put it at the end of this game week. So the nice thing about this fixture, non-FPL reasons is it happens for some reason on Thursday night. So everybody else plays Saturday, Sunday, and then you wait 4 days until the game week ends. So the nice thing about this is it's if you end up having a really shit week, there's that little light at the end of the tunnel.
On the other hand, if you suddenly get team news, it'll be way too late to do anything with your team.
That is true. Yeah, you're gonna spend 4 days. You play could stub a toe between, but then there's always that risk, regardless. Now, right off the bat, I have one issue with this game. I would like to pick Brentford attackers, obviously, because they just did what they did against Brighton, and Brian Mbomo once again made me look like an idiot because it's not the first time that he's hauled, and I've missed the haul, which is really annoying. We both had Mbomo for so long this season, and how do we miss such a big haul?
It's okay. I enjoyed some big hauls from him, so I'm fine. I'm fine to miss one.
Yeah. So temptation is to just have Brian Mbomo. It feels like it's almost like a safety blanket. He's always been a solid pick, especially since Tony's left, on pens, on set pieces. The only thing is, Forest feels like a hard fixture to me.
Yeah.
Chasing Champions
Forest-
League and will want to
Yeah.
defend.
Yeah. I agree, which is why I have Forest players instead of Brentford players.
Okay, so we'll come to Chris Wood, right? Because I think we discussed Gibbs and Ilanga earlier on when we were discussing Clive. Let's talk about Chris Wood. Now, there's one important development in Chris Wood's life which we have to address. He's had a baby. Okay, this is really important. Okay, uh,
Yes.
not every other FPL podcast will focus on this, but you and I, Sam, we both are parents of young children, and we can tell you that it's hell. Okay, I mean, especially the first few weeks. This is Chris Wood's first kid, right? He's got to come into Thursday night either like one or two ways, right? Either he is tired out of his mind and he's not had a single night's peaceful sleep, or he's so motivated to get out of the house, like, thank God I'm out of the house, I don't need to do anything. And then he scores a hat trick.
No diapers to change and stuff.
Exactly.
I'm gonna lean towards the latter. Mostly because it's confirmation bias, I guess. I want him to do well. So I'm gonna believe that will be the scenario.
Yeah. And maybe because being a parent sort of motivates you to strive to something higher, he will. And obviously you got to do the baby celebration. Like that's a given.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to have to do that. And yeah,
He put in 100%. He's not leaving my team.
I like it. I think Chris Wood, it's hard to argue Chris Wood is a pick. I mean, he's been so consistent across the season anyway. So almost fixture proof. But let's talk about the guys contending against him. Now, I'm going to assume we can finish off with Forest. We're not talking about any Forest defenders, right?
Oh, Chris Wood has scored 19 goals this season.
Well, why be surprised, Sam? You only for most of those goals.
Yeah, I know, but I kind of never registered in my mind. This is like golden boot territory, Pretty sure if it wasn't for Salah's crazy season, like 19 goals can probably net you a golden boot in some of the previous seasons, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's scandalous that Chris Wood is not being linked to, Madrid or PSG or, so man deserves a big move.
He deserve he if there's any league he should move to, it should be Italian league. Like he will smash the Italian league for sure.
Yeah, don't need to run. Just walk and score week in week out. Yeah, he's basically the Kiwi Lukaku. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
that aside, Sam, let's sort of wrap up this fixture, right? Now, Forest defenders, Sam, I don't think you can make a good case to pick Forest defense. Notwithstanding that Forest are a very defensive team, I think picking defenders against Brentford feels like, it feels like
Better.
there are better fixtures. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Really. Nothing else to say. I have one first defender, but again he'll probably be on my bench. Just for the sake of having one.
Okay. But on the flip side, are we both prepared to go without Mbomo and Wissa?
Unfortunately, I will have to sacrifice them in my team. Sticking with my theory, to get teams who are chasing Champions League plus Wolves. That's basically the theory in my mind.
All right, fair enough. I think it is a 50-50 call with Mbomo this week, so fair enough. Um, but let's talk about the competition. Let's talk Fulham Southampton. This now before we came on, there's some news. Marco Silva just said that Rodrigo Muniz is out this week. So
Ah,
I think that we can't really ignore Raul Jimenez now, can we?
I'm ignoring him. I have a couple of Fulham players in my team, but I'll probably bench all of them. I'm just having them for the sake of having them. But I feel this fixture is a trap. And Fulham also kind of have nothing to play for. I feel it'll be a trap. Now they probably still will win because Southampton are bad. You just have the makings of like a 1-0 win or 2-1 win, and then the person who scores is someone that no one has. Like
I
Adama
find
Traore or something like that.
okay. That would be really interesting if it happens. The motivation factor aside, now I'll give you that, right? Fulham probably don't have a lot to play for. Fair enough. But Southampton, quite bad. I
Quite
think,
understatement, I think. Quite is an understatement.
yeah, it's not like as if the new manager has made. I mean, he's tried to make them more defensive, but they still eventually collapsed against Villa after much effort. To be fair, they did show some resolve to get back against West Ham.
It's because they do have
I
something to play for. They had to try their best to not be the worst Premier League team ever.
Yes, and they are finally on course to. I think they need one more point to beat Derby's record. So fair
Yeah,
enough.
so I think they're equal with Derby. So they have motivation to play, more motivation than Fulham, I would argue.
Okay, fair.
The X motivation is high.
I don't know, man. I get that, but I feel like Rodrigo Muniz being ruled out is just like a sign. How can I not have Raul Jimenez? I've always wanted Raul Jimenez this whole season, and I've never been able to pick him because
Huh?
Muniz has always been a threat. Finally, and I will concede that even this week, as I say that, Raul Jimenez didn't play 90 minutes, and he came off on, I want to
83, which is
say,
still decent.
good enough. Yeah. So I mean, Vinicius. Is it,
Hmm.
did I say it? Yeah, Vinicius. Despite the name, uh, is not that
Carlos.
Vinicius. Yes, Carlos Vinicius, who has, I mean, his first minutes since game week 17. So I don't think he's a threat. And I don't know if you've been watching, Sam. I watch a lot of international
Fulham
football,
games. Oh, okay.
which involves Fulham players because a lot of them go for CONCACAF and stuff. And Raul Jimenez, when he goes for his CONCACAF matches, and he
Oh,
cooks
yeah, yeah.
because he takes all the free kicks and he scores bangers. And he's been doing it a lot this last year. And I feel like he's due to do that in the Premier League. It's got to happen soon. Because, I mean, free kicks are free kicks, right? No reason why, if you can score it uh, in the SoFi Stadium in LA, you can score it at St. Mary's. So yeah, I want Raul Jimenez this week.
Okay. I think it's fair. It's a good punt. Probably very low ownership, I think. Playing a bad team. So I think it's a good punt. I don't know. I just have a gut feeling that it's a trap. But if you feel good about it, go for it.
So I'm guessing you're not on board for Alex Iwobi, despite this sudden.
So I have
I want to
Iwobi
say
in the team, but he will be on the bench. He'll be on the bench.
fair. I don't know how to read Alex Iwobi. I mean, I've watched him for years and years and years, all the way back at Arsenal. I generally don't know to read. It feels like one week he's doing something amazing, and the next week he's completely peripheral. You don't see him at all in the game. And even his minutes, okay, the minutes have largely been okay, but for some reason you see a couple of 20 minutes thrown in.
Yeah.
Suddenly there'll be a 60-minute performance. It just, I don't know. I really don't know about Alex Iwobi.
Yeah, fair, I think. It has been. It's like it just feels like a fun pick. Like, you're on a free hit. You just want someone for 1 week. So okay, you will never pick him like for a permanent basis, right?
Yeah. And I think, unlike Trent, I think the competition is a bit more fierce at midfield. I'm not sure I can, in good conscience, start Iwobi. defenders though, Ryan Sessegnon
Yeah.
was a very popular pick at the start of the week, but
Is it no longer?
I mean he's still a popular pick. But if you look at his minutes, Sam, I mean it's a little concerning, right? Because 78 last week against Chelsea, his points, his haul is only that big because he came off before they conceded the goals. Okay,
Yeah.
he's
And
playing out
I
of
think for
position.
the appeal, yeah, he was out of position on the, I want to say, right wing.
I mean, it's on the wing. Who cares? But yes,
Yeah. Which, if I'm not mistaken, he started his career as a winger and then was pushed back
no,
at,
he's a winger. He's
right?
not a defender, right? Until I'm pretty sure until Conte came in, yes, right wing. But until Conte came to Spurs, Ryan
Yeah.
Sessegnon had never played as a defender, and to be honest, it wasn't like as if he was a pure defender at Spurs anyway.
Yeah. It's one of those tragic cases where they bought him from Fulham, right?
Yes, okay, he went the whole circle.
Yeah, as a wonder kid, and they just never really gave him a chance at Spurs, play him out of position, and then now he's back. So there's some narrative there, I guess. The Fulham themselves want him to do well. Fulham fans want him to do well.
Yeah,
4.1, so cheap as chips.
yeah.
I have to say
Minutes
though,
uncertain.
yeah, minutes uncertain, and it looks good because he scored 11 points. But like you said, only because he came off before they considered. That's one. Two, his assist had expect an XA of 0.01. So I don't know how sustainable that is. Um, if you really wanted a defender, I would still go the safe route, which is Anthony Robinson, who has 10 assists this season, which is pretty crazy. Like that's Robertson territory. I was gonna say Trent,
Yeah,
but Trent's but yeah. So I mean, he hasn't returned for the past few weeks. Like his last assist was in Game Week 24. But if you want someone attacking threat, he's it. However, Fulham just, I don't even know if they can keep a clean sheet against Southampton because they have not been keeping a clean sheet against anyone for a long time.
I'd wager that they can keep a clean sheet against Southampton. I think Southampton very fortunate to get something against West Ham. I think it says a lot more about West Ham than it
West
does about Southampton.
Well, the good point, I mean the good thing that supports your theory is that their last few clean sheets were against Spurs. Okay, that's one. But then before that it was Leicester, which everyone's keeping a clean sheet against, and before that was Southampton. So all the
Yeah.
way back in game week 17, by the way.
Okay, so maybe not double defense with Fulham, but yeah, I feel good about Anthony Robinson against someone who both of us had for a very large part of the season, and I think I prefer that to Sessegnon's. To me, feels like very uncertain minutes. I mean, he's hauling despite a lot of 7 minutes he's hauling, 3 minutes he's hauled. I mean, fair play to him, but it's and like you said, this assist against Chelsea, right? 0.01 XA. Iwobi's XG for the goal is 0.04. Like so,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
it's one of those could be repeated. We're not stat nerds, but even we have we're also a bit realistic, I think. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's Fulham. I think for me, it's probably just Raul Jimenez. I think Bern Leno is he may be an option because I'm not entirely sure which keeper I'll go with. But I suppose we'll come to the team where I assume your defenders are coming from, Sam, and it's Chelsea Everton.
Yeah. I have Sanchez. But it's kind of a placeholder because I want a Chelsea defender, I think. Again, the
Sure.
whole theory, they have somewhat something to play for. They do have something to play for. They want to secure Champions League. They still have a chance for it. Everton famously not very good attacking wise, although they do seem to be able to sneak a goal here and there. I kind of want Cucurella. Don't, yeah. So, but I'm not gonna double up. So it's either Sanchez or Cucurella, depending on how my team, you know, yeah, how it goes throughout the week as we get closer to the deadline.
Yeah. The fact that Sanchez is a very, very, very bad goalkeeper not coming into your consideration, I take it.
I mean, it kind of is. So I'm very reluctantly put Sanchez in. However, most likely I will take him out and put Cucurella as one of the defenders instead.
Yeah. I suppose, I mean, yeah, Everton's attack has not been great. They haven't scored more than uh, one goal in a game going back to game week 26, which was against United. Last week, yeah, they got the win against Forest 1-0. I think Doucouré scored. Yeah, they've been scraping goals. Like, it's a lot of random goals, right? But I wonder, are we reading too much into the fact that all their strikers are injured? They still do get, like, somehow they, as you said, I think you mentioned it to start off, they somehow find like one goal from somebody. Either it's a set piece or someone, Doucouré smashes it in from distance, Iliman Ndiaye maybe.
Yeah.
And Chelsea, you say they have something to play for, fair enough, but they have been awful since the turn of the year.
They
Because
have.
if we remember, yeah, you know, remember how Chelsea started? They were being talked as title challengers, like maybe about 3 months in, and everybody was saying Maresca's cooking, and the form has plummeted since then. He's probably getting sacked. Like, I don't think winning the Coca-Cola, Pepsi, I-95, uh, Snickers trophy or whatever it is, I don't think that's going to save him. You can see the level of competition they're facing. So yeah, I'm not sure about
Yeah.
picking
I
Chelsea
get
players.
that. Of all the teams who still have something to play for, Chelsea does feel like the least inspiring of all of them.
Mm,
Like, in theory, they should be playing hard and working hard for it, but on the pitch, it's a different story. They have not been clicking. It looks like as though they're on the beach.
yeah, pretty much. And that, I mean, that probably speaks to the fact that a lot of these players may be moving again at the end of the season. That being said, they showed a lot of courage to come back against Fulham. It must be said, right? Because that was a pretty late comeback.
Yeah.
So I think one defender I kind of stomach, and I think Cucurella is a pick I've seen a lot of drafts, and fair enough. You can look at the clean sheet odds here; they're quite high up. So at least there's some sort of sense in that theory. I think the bigger question is, do you have Cole Palmer? Because I see Cole Palmer in a lot of drafts, and he's not been in any of mine.
Yeah. I'm one of those who stuck with Cole Palmer despite his turn in form, and I regret it tremendously. So no, I will not be having Cole Palmer on my team. I'm gonna take a chance on Neto, I think.
Yeah, Pedro Neto, interesting. I don't think I've seen him in anybody's draft.
Ah.
Talk to me about that.
He looks good. He's a good player and has the most goal threat now of all the wingers, I think. Minutes look kind of nil. Yes, he was benched in Game Week 31, but in between the occasional benchings, he does get 90, which is an important point, I think. Like, he doesn't really come off early, which even Cole Palmer has been coming off. Um, you know, I like Neto. Yeah, low ownership differential. Like you said, most people are going for Palmer. I think Neto is an interesting player to have with a lot of goal threat.
But do you really rate this fixture as one to target for attackers? Because I don't. I feel like Everton, for we're discussing all their issues attacking, unless you think Tarkowski being out makes that big a difference, I guess.
I think it will make a big difference. Yes, but again, I have Neto. I mean, I intend to have Neto. He's not in my current team, actually. I intend to get him, but again, you got to bench someone, and I'm not really sure who I would bench. It's a whole headache right now. Like 15 players I want to play.
Fair, fair. I mean, I to be honest, as we've been speaking, I've been messing about with my draft. Like, it's just one of those, like, you just the temptation on free hit, right? Just gonna keep changing stuff. Let's sort of wrap up. We've gone much longer than we normally do, but shows you how much you're overthinking this week. Brighton. Now, João Pedro is suspended, Sam. So does that mean it's finally time to own
Well,
Danny Welbeck? D Welbs.
have we owned him in any point of the season? I don't think so.
Haven't owned him for years, mate. I cannot remember the last time I had Danny Welbeck in my team. Can we really pass up this opportunity? Because West Ham are shit. I mean, that's exactly what Nicholas Fulcrook said. I've said a lot of things on this week's show, but Nicholas Fulcrook actually came out last week and just said, "Yeah, we're a shit team."
Yeah, he did that. He did again. Normally, yes, but now with I'm gonna stick with my
With
whole
your
teams
motivation,
to play for TM. Yeah, but I can see the appeal. I can see the appeal. A bit of nostalgia there, maybe. Arsenal legend, United legend, Brighton legend. I don't know how many clubs he's a legend in.
Watford legend,
Watford legend.
Sunderland.
So, yeah. So a 1 game week punt, on the free hit. Yeah, why not? It's a bit of fun, I think.
It's got to be tempting because Jao Pedro being out, it's just like the pieces have all fallen in place here.
Is he on
And
pens if Pedro's out?
I would say so. I can't see why not. Who else would? I mean, Kaoru Mitoma is not going to try and take them away from him.
Then yeah.
Marco Asensio doesn't play for Brighton, thankfully. So yeah, I think
Yeah, I think it's a fun pick. I like it too. I think you should go for it.
okay. So let's finally wrap up with current drafts. And I can already tell you this is outdated, but this is the draft I had like at the start of the show. It's almost certainly changing quite a bit. But
In
to be
1
fair, I
hour.
may come. But to be fair, I may come back to this. Right? Let's just run. I'll run through it quickly. Right? Allison in goal and Virgil in defense. My initial thought was Virgil. I'll probably switch that to Trent. Ait Nouri, I think goes nowhere for me. Robinson, I think goes nowhere for me, despite reservations about Fulham. Salah, I like. I'm still tempted by double Newcastle mids. No matter what I said just now, it's still really tempting. Iwobi probably goes for Clivert or Mbomo. I'm not sure. And then up front, Raul Jimenez going nowhere. Isak going nowhere. Cunha, debatable. Very debatable. Could be Strand Larson, I think, based on what we discussed. And I think nicely takes us to your draft, Sam. And this is now I was hoping this would be like the sicko draft. This is the draft that the ultimate upside draft. Rob Sanchez in goal, so you made a good start.
I'll probably change that.
Milenkovic,
As we talk, I feel like I'm gonna do Leno in goal. My defenders will be Trent, Ait Nouri, and Cucurella, I think. Nice
I like
blend
it.
of upside, between the players. Attacking threat. Midfield, Murphy, Barnes there. Diaz is there. No Salah for me. I'm gone with Gibbs White because I just feel like I want a Forest mid, but none of them are really there. Although, as we spoke just now, I'm kind of tempted by Neto now, so it might change to Neto. And in attack, Isak Wood, Strand Larsen.
So that forward line sticks for you.
If there's 1% I'm tempted to take out, it's Isak.
Oh,
Yeah.
and
Although I'm not sure if there's a third forward that I'm really interested in. If I were to take out Isak, it would be for another midfielder, and then I would play a 3-5-2.
that's insane, man. You're insane. Okay, I want to see this. Okay, we'll see Sam's team at deadline or before deadline anyway. Captains. Okay, so you've gone full on upside chasing with Luis Diaz. I'm full on boring with Isaac. But Sam, I don't know if you know this. In our mini league, I just lost the lead yesterday by 1 point, which is really upsetting. Having led our mini league for most of the year. So despite
Wow.
my decent rank, people still come for the king, man. So I'm tempted to go differential. Maybe I don't need
See what,
captain
at
Isaac.
1 point difference is not. You don't need to go differential.
But Sam, give me what's the next best captain after Isaac? Because to me that feels on paper objectively probably the best.
So you're
Who's
saying no Isak, no Salah, because those are too obvious.
Salah doesn't I mean recency bias maybe, but it doesn't feel like that's a bit boring. Like give me something more sexy apart from Luis Diaz. Who is the next sexiest pick?
Chris Wood.
Chris Wood. Interesting.
Harvey
Really?
Barnes, actually. Harvey Barnes' great form has
Ooh.
not blanked for the past 6 game weeks. Inside there are 2 double-digit hauls. Again, minutes risk, yes. However, it does seem like Murphy is the one who usually comes off at 60. Harvey Barnes in the past 6 weeks played 90 in 4 of them and past 75 in the remaining 2. So maybe slightly higher expected minutes compared to Murphy. Harvey Barnes, I think, is a sexy captain.
Very
And you still
sexy because
get your whole, Ipswich good fixture at home. Yeah.
yeah, you get the fixture and you get a guy who probably isn't going to be in most people's drafts anyway. So this is still like going to be a really low EO captain. I like it. I like it. Harvey Barnes. Okay, something to think about. Okay. Nothing else for this week, Sam. Anything from you?
No, that's it. That's it. We spent quite a long time on a blank game week.
It is something that we have put way more attention and way more effort into this week than we normally do. So, can already see the red arrow loading up. But on that note, Sam,
Get your green arrows, guys, and we'll see you next week.